So, Lady in Tramp was the very first movie I saw as a child. I was born in Japan, and I must have been 5 or 6 years old when I saw the film. And my father had already been visiting America, and we were eventually going to immigrate. So for me, first of all, I love dogs. I've had dogs all my life. And seeing these two dogs in this place called America that looked very idyllic, it had profound impact. And also just the fact that, these drawings are coming to life. So I remember leaving the theater going, wow, I wonder how you do that. I wonder if I could ever do that. And then I think within that same year or near the same time period, my dad had come back from the States back to Japan. And somehow he had gotten to know Osamu Tezuka, who's the creator of Astro Boy. And so I remember going up, he had his little animation studio on top of his house, and he was a medical doctor at the time. And he had started this animation studio in his upstairs studio. And I remember going up the stairs with my little sister and my cousin and my dad and my mom visiting his studio. And he took out these drawings and background paintings and cells of Astro Boy. And I was so smitten. I was like leaving there. I said to my dad, this is what I got to do when I grow up.
Oh, I love it.
And my dad said, but remember, he was a doctor before he did any of this. So that meant, okay, well, this is going to be a challenge. And then we immigrated to the US when I was 8. And I think, of all immigrants coming to the US, parents really want your kids to do the best they can. And this was in the mid-60s. And so my dad wanted my sister, I have a younger sister. So he kind of envisioned one of us would be a doctor, another one would be a lawyer, or something like that. So as much as I loved animation, I don't draw, so I wasn't an artist per se. So I always loved movies, but I never thought it was something I could do.
I want to, I can say I can relate. My mother also migrated here by way of the Caribbean, we can say. She hopped around a bit. And she named me actually after a doctor on General Hospital because she thought she was going to have a doctor daughter. So around, not I think a little bit older than you, I came to the same conclusion that I came home from school and I was like, I want to do animation based off of a school trip. And I was just fortunate that she was pretty supportive of that. But her doctor dreams of daughter or whatever, that that left very soon.
As I got involved with women animation, I was also working with Mark Osborne on The Little Prince. And I could see that there were women animators. And they were young, but they were talented, and I wanted to see them succeed. And coming from Disney and Pixar, there are very, very few women animators.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to Little Prince and seeing so many more, I thought, okay, there's a possibility to do this. So when I went to Lego 2, I made a conscientious effort to make sure that we can get equal representation all around. And the director that was working with me on Lego 2 completely bought into this and wanted to make sure that we did that. So we started obviously with story department because that's where you even see less women.
Yes.
And the good news is by the time, we're doing Lego 2, there's so much demand for story artists that, you can't find them. And so my director had come from TV and he said, I think we can find more women in TV. So we went out and said, okay, who's out there that's doing animated TV series that's working as story artists that will apply? And so we took one artist at a time, and our head of story wanted to mentor, and he was great at mentoring. And that's how we got so many women into this. And it was interesting because, working TV is very different from working features. And so some liked it and some didn't, but we had an opportunity to bring them in, and some decided to stay in features and others decided to go back to TV. But I was really, really proud that we could do that. Right. So 2014, we went to NSC as an organization for the first time and started a conversation about gender parity, because we had done a study with the Animation Guild, which is the union based in LA, the 839 local union, and gotten some stats. And the stats show that there are very, very small percentage of the union members were female. Meanwhile, we're seeing skyrocketing number of girls studying animation, where women were more than men, actually, which is the complete opposite of what it was 15, 20 years ago, where most of the students studying animation were men. But today, over the last 5 years, it's gone the other way. So we said, okay, well, obviously, there's a problem. If you got all these girls studying animation, but they're not in the workplace. So we made a proclamation at ANSI in 2015, the following year, saying we need to hit gender parity 50-50 by 2025, giving ourselves 10 years to do this.
Wow.
As you know, any change, it requires sustainability. Otherwise, change doesn't happen. So we laid out and said, you know, here are ways that here are things that we need to do to support women to succeed. And so we started a mentoring program. One of the studios thought that we should be doing some research, and we were very fortunate to receive funding for USC to do a research on the whole industry, animation industry, where the women were and what the issues were. And so they're both external and internal issues. So we've been trying to break down both barriers, external and internal, so that we can actually make progress. So our mentoring program, I think, has ended up to be something that is truly valuable, because it allows for women to be mentored. And that's something that I think happens a lot on a very informal basis with men. But we weren't seeing that happening with women when we spoke to women leadership. And so we felt it was really important to create mentoring program, and also to create communities where women had accessibility to other women, not at your studio, but at different studios, so that you can share experiences and talk about your challenges and your successes. So it's really community building, and so that people have ways to connect with each other, to help and support each other.
The next question, not to put you on the spot, but you know, we still have to address current times, is I know that a lot of people are looking and asking and seeing from leadership with the whole lack of representation, diversity, specifically Black people in animation. For me, it's kind of similar, where it's not an abundance of people in school for it, but there's definitely a decent amount that we see in art school pursuing a career in animation, but they don't get into a studio. And then on the second part is maybe some people are self-taught, and they've have a couple years experience, but they're still not able to break into the industry. Can you speak on maybe some, I don't know, conversations or the type of conversations coming from your peers in leadership, and what efforts are trying to be made or discussions being had to help?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously diversity and inclusion has been very important for Hollywood, but I think given the situation we're in today, the fact that when you look at the numbers, I think the Black representation definitely suffers more than the Latinos and the Asians. And I think part of it is that there are not that many Black people studying animation compared to the Asians. And I think part of it is economics, right? These schools are very expensive. And so one of the things that we've been talking at Women in Animation, and I know the studios are also talking about this, is that reaching out to the communities reaching out to high schools, reaching out to junior colleges, places that we typically don't recruit from. Typically we recruit from the best animation schools. But we got to go.
How come it's difficult to go from a PA to producer? From the name, I assumed it's a natural entry-level job to be a producer. Comparison writer's assistant to writer seems a bit more common.
It's not difficult. It's a lengthy process. Because when you think about a PA is an entry-level position. And from a PA, you become a coordinator, and then you become an assistant production manager, then you become a production manager, and then you become an associate producer or line producer, and then there's a co-producer, then you have a producer. And if you're working on an animated movie, you have to remember each of these movies take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So when you think about all the positions you have to go through, it's a long process.
And I want to say that it seems like it's not necessary. It seems, I don't know this to be true, that it's not all that long for like a director. Like it seems like someone, which I could again not be true, but maybe it is like somewhere between 5 to 10 years, you're a storyboard artist or you're an animator, and then you get to direct a movie. And it doesn't seem like there's that much shuffling in between. But again, I'm new here.
Well, I think, again, directors come in different many forms, right?
Okay.
So if you're directing a TV series, an episode, maybe you can be a director 5-10 years after you're out of school.
Okay.
I doubt 5, but 10 for sure. On a feature, I'm trying to think of a director that has done it less than 10 years in his career. His or her career. I don't think so. Most of them have, I would say easily 12, 15 years, if not more.
That adds some perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a journeyman process, whether you're going through the creative process or through the production process.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm, it's a life's work. I think, if you have something brilliant and you're brilliant and you have something creative that people want, yes, there's that opportunity. You could be a director before your age of 30.
Okay.
But that's a rare exception. I don't think that's a norm,
Right. And for the most part, we're speaking just animation industry specifically. Not like we have another question just came in. It says, I am a part of my company's diversity and inclusion group. I'm curious about your thought on how we could increase diversity with a mid-sized company. So I do know Joy. Joy works for, I guess you can say like a advertising motion house, type of place that New York is filled with.
Mm-hmm.
I can put the question back up if that'll help.
Yeah.
Mid-sized company.
Well, first of all, if you have a diverse, if there is a diversity and inclusion group within the company, that the leadership of the company is committed. So I think it's really about figuring out strategically how do you find those candidates that qualify to be brought in, whether they're maybe if they're not qualified for a job, can they be brought in as interns? Can they be brought in as trainees? I think there's lots of ways to create diversity and inclusion, but the important fact is that I'm glad that your company recognizes the importance of that. So without that recognition and the desire, it doesn't happen. So that's the first step.